I'd like to give you a quick run through of the Risk Scorecard, and in particular how it is it gets created from things which already exist in your organization. So the principle is straightforward. We should be able to take the organization's strategy and combine that with your risks in order to begin updating a strategic risk register. And from there, we can obviously add metrics to create a risk scorecard. Now, strategy, as we know, best practices to capture strategic intent are things like a strategy map, which come from Doctors Kaplan and Norton Balanced Scorecard body of knowledge, where we identify each of the key strategic objectives and how important they are for the time period under consideration. In terms of coming up the risk or even the strategic risk register, for some organizations it may be a two-step process. Some may already have a risk register, in which case you can use that. For organizations that don't, you might want to use some sort of risk breakdown structure like COSO or ISO 31000, which gives you a generic list of risk categories which are fairly universal. The benefit of this is when you begin looking at this universal list, you can make sure that you're not missing any risks that might not come to mind as you interview the executives. So if we take those risk categories and we combine them with your strategic objectives, we can begin to prioritize them. What this looks like is something along these lines, where we have the strategic objectives down the left, which come from the strategy map, and the risk breakdown categories across the top. And then we can take a look at each category, or in this case subcategory, and understand what that risk's impact is against those strategic objectives. From there you can determine which categories have the highest risk. Then you can go out and either validate your existing risk register or identify the areas where your risk register should include risks. In either case, you can repeat this process now with your specific risks across the top, not these risk categories, to identify which risks have the highest strategic impact based on your current strategy. Now, if you combine existing measures around the risk likelihood of occurring, and these are probably KRIs. You can also do control effectiveness indicators, but we'll talk about that later. So now these bars represent the multiplication of weighting times impact times the performance score, and now you can begin to scorecard where risk is actually occurring in your organization. What's interesting about this is if your strategy changes or your priorities, you can instantly see what it does to your risk profile. If you have to add in new risks because new events are happening, you have a framework in which you can easily insert that into the existing risk register and prioritize that in accordance to the other risks which have already been analyzed. So obviously there is more information available to you at riskscorecard.net. But I encourage you to call us if you have questions. Risk is a complicated process, and there doesn't seem to be anything that simplifies it for most organizations. We're more than happy to help you out so long as we can answer your calls over the phone or, using a tool like WebEx. So give us a call. Happy to help you on your risk journey. Thank you for your time.